kindergarten teacher who said, always share, was wrong. I got to keep it all for myself. But the next day, when I come in for work, my general manager, Donna, who I love and have tremendous respect for, I've worked for many restaurants, had many general managers, some good, some bad. She's as good as they come. Very, very positive. Former Division I athlete and so forth, and she's great. She comes in the next day, and I went to sleep that night. Even though I had made a lot of money, I went to sleep last night feeling like a dummy. Because I had a report. I should have, knowing that, yes, other places will do it differently, but I should have, just as a safety precaution, I should have asked, how do you want this poured? To my manager. Just so I'm on company standards, and I didn't. So I was feeling dumb. I had already apologized to him, the assistant general manager. Well, the next day I come in, and Donna happened to be back, some behind the bars getting herself a soda or something. I said, Donna, I gotta apologize. I said, I think I just sent about $300 or $400 of, free liquor out the door. She says, yeah, I heard it. She says, I don't want to talk about it. I said, I understand. I blew it. It's nobody else's fault. It's my own. It was a dumb thing to do. She said, you know what, Sven, it's all right. It's all right. And she's cool. I mean, that's cool. For her to, and she's a partner, so she has a vested money interest in this company. And so, but she said, that's all right. I apologized, I took my medicine, and she let it go. So I was still feeling bad. And knowing also, when you have a boss that you like, and when you have a company that you like, you want to do good work. And you want your boss to like your work, not just like you, but appreciate your work, right? We all like that, right? To be valued for the work we do. So I started Tuesday, even though I had a good wad of money in my bank account as a result of Monday, I started Tuesday sort of set back. I'm like, oh, now I look bad at the company. Even though I cracked the bottle of Louis XIII, and thank you very much, I sold 3 shots, so to speak. One of the things we say in restaurants is, with an expensive bottle of wine, or with something like Louis XIII, you don't sell it. It sells itself. Most people who are buying a very high-end bottle of wine or buying Louis XIII, you don't walk up to a table and say, would you like to buy some Louis XIII tonight? The odds, how rarely you sell that. In other words, they're buying it. The Louis has sold itself. Except that 3rd shot. I did sell that. All right? So I at least had some pride, but I was still feeling down. And then Tuesday night comes. Every night before our shift, we have an opening, it's called a pre-shift meeting. All of the servers sit in the bar and we sample one of our wines, get familiarized with the wine. Managers will give us any notes, and the chef will come out and talk about a few dishes. He'll have samples of the dish, and we'll taste it, and he'll tell us what's changing on the menu. It literally changes every single night. They reprint our menus every single night, sometimes every couple of hours, within a shift. He comes out and he explains it and so on and so forth, and he says, oh, by the way, this evening, we do have we sell all seafood, right? Big crab legs and lunch and so on and so forth. He says, we do have a bit of an unusual thing tonight. We have a 5-pound lobster. Most lobsters are 2.5, 3, 3.5, maybe as high as 4. And, this night we happen to have a 5. He says, so if anybody wants to sell a 5, I sell the 5. All right, so just he's laying that out there as a bit of a challenge. So the meeting's done, and us bartenders are standing around, and I said, you remember that scene, what was it, a World Series where Babe Ruth steps up to the plate and he points to the left field like he's going to hit it out of the park on a home run? Very next pitch, boom, hits it out of the park on the home run, right exactly where he was pointing. I mean, you can't do that, but he did. So I said to the bartenders, I'm Babe Ruth tonight. I'm selling that $5. And they're like, yeah, right. One of the other servers said to me, all right, Sven, I'll bet you a quarter. So we got a quarter. Blah, 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 working throughout the night. And Ryan, this trainee, who was also on that night, he has 2 guys there at the bar, and he's talking to them, and he happens to mention, oh, we have a 5-pound lobster. And I sort of stepped in. And I said, if you've ever sold cars or had cars sold to you, you know there's the opener, the salesman, and then there's the closer. And so I step in to these 2 guys, a businessman, salesman, in from out of town, and I say, yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. And again, I'm trying to sell a 5-pound lobster, right? I said, it's very interesting. Are you familiar with the show on TV, on Discovery Channel, called The Deadliest Catch? They say, yeah, of course. Up in Alaska where the crab boats, these big ships go out, and they basically film this crazy life, these crab fishermen, these big pots that are maybe, 8 feet tall by 8 feet wide. They call them pots. They lure them, they sit in the water, and then and they come back a day later, however long later, and the crabs crawling on them. They fish them out of the water, pull the crabs out, throw the pot into the water, and that's how they fill their hulls with the crab, right? It's a show called The Deadliest Catch. I said to these guys, have you ever seen the show Deadliest Catch? Oh, sure we have. I said, well, about 5 weeks ago, on the very last episode of the show, 3 of our chefs from Indianapolis were on that ship. Now, I know that 3 of our chefs were on that ship, but I couldn't remember if it was the last episode or second last episode, whatever it was. But anyway, the bottom line is, that was the episode where the Time Bandit, there were about 5 ships on this show. One was the Time Bandit. And our chefs were on the Time Bandit when the Time Bandit discovered, and this is true, a 40,000-pound biomass of Alaskan king crab. Now what that means, as I understand it, is the crabs weren't just crawling in the pot, but as a result of sonar or radar or whatever, they discovered that there was basically 40,000 pounds, roughly, of crab along the seabed. And all they had to do was just start fishing them up. Our chefs get on the phone, whether it was with our CEO or whoever, and Ocean Air Restaurants bought the entire 40,000 pounds of Alaskan king crab. I'm explaining this to these gentlemen at the bar. I said, we bought the 40,000 pounds, and as a result, since then, we more or less have an exclusive contract with the Time Bandit that we buy all of, or a good portion of, their crab. I'm explaining it to these gentlemen. And I said, you know, these crab legs are like this long, no exaggeration. So we'll cluster them 2 or 3 or 4 crab legs in a cluster. So that roughly what you're getting is anywhere between 2.5 pounds to 2 3/4 to 3, 3 1/4, 3 1/2. And that's as good as crab gets. I'm telling these gentlemen, I said, gentlemen, if you like crab, this is as good as crab gets. And about halfway through my story, it's occurring to me that we began this talking about lobster. And now I'm selling the crab. And I was selling the crab because the crab is just such a great story. I love telling that story. And we even put it on the menu, Time Bandit King Crab. And I'm midway through this story. And my mouth is going, telling the crab story, and in the back of my head I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to get out of this one? So I finish the story and I say, and so now we have this exclusive contract, as you can see in the center, with the Time Bandit, as you can see in the center of your menu down there at the bottom, with the Time Bandit, and we get, most of their crab, or a lot of their crab, whatever it is. And I finish. And these 2 guys look at me with sort of perplexed looks, and one guy says to me, you are aware that you were telling me before about the lobster, and now you're telling me about the crab. And waited a beat. Yes. You make an excellent point. And the point is this, that just as we have an exclusive contract with the Time Bandit up in Alaska, we have an exclusive or semi-exclusive relationship with a lobster broker in New England who gets us the finest lobster from waters that are not overfished. We're very conscious of the environment and so forth. And our lobster are the very, very best. And on rare occasion, I just turned the corner here from crab to lobster. And it's just, I'm praying, oh help me, oh help me, oh help me. And I'm praying, and it comes out, and I say, and on rare occasion, and this is all true, I'm not lying to these gentlemen. It's all just sort of stream of consciousness here. I said, on rare occasion, we will get something larger than a 4-pound. We got a 5-pound, and on a very, very rare occasion, we make it a 6 or 7. We got a 5-pound lobster. Do you know how rare this is, gentlemen? Okay, now I'm just appealing to the male ego as I'm talking to this guy. Do you know how rare this is? Do you know how